Yo, what's good, brother?
What's happening, fellas?
The Saltwata Dawn.
Simeon Daise, y'all.
Simeon Daise, thank you for pulling up the paths, my guy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
100%.
Nah, he's too cool, bro. He said, thank you for having me.
What does saltwater mean?
Well, saltwater growing up, you know, it's like a slang term for being Gullah Geechee, where I'm from. You know, you grew up on the sea island around saltwater. So it was a saying we had, like something like, you know, that saltwater gets them every time. You know? But also too, what a lot of people don't know is that I'm actually, you know, I'm a healer. You know, I've been a Reiki master since I was about 25. And saltwater, if you have anybody from the South, you know, your grandma will tell you if you get a cut, go soak it in salt water because it has a lot of different healing properties. So even though a lot of people don't identify with being Gullah Geechee, one thing everybody of African descent has is all of our ancestors were brought over here on that salt water. So it's something that connects all of us through the healing process or the healing properties of the salt water.
I love it. Simeon Daise, y'all. It's going to be one incredible interview, I can tell you already, brother. All right, so as you mentioned, saltwater, for folks who don't know, where specifically did your path start? Specifically, where are you from?
I'm from Beaufort, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Small town. I couldn't even tell you the population. Everybody knows everybody, and half of them probably your cousin.
Word.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up out there?
It was interesting for me. Like I had a very unique experience because of Gullah Gullah Island, right. And that's actually my father's hometown, right? And a lot of my family's hometown, which, you know, we found out later. But growing up in such a small, condensed place, but being on TV, it had its own challenges because by the time I step into like preschool, everybody thinks they know me. You know? Yeah. In a small town where everybody already know everybody. So it came with a lot of expectations, a lot of pressure, a lot of finding my own way, bumping my head. It was nothing like Hollywood. I grew up in almost the exact opposite of Hollywood. For you know, people who may assume that I grew up in the industry because Gullah Gullah Island, I grew up in nothing like the industry. Right. So it was different. But it made me who I am for sure.
How did Gullah Gullah Island come about? You were two, so that would be in so many cases the beginning of your path because you were on TV at such a young age. So do you know how Gullah Gullah Island came about?
So literally, actually, I was 4 when it ended, but I'm gonna give you like a physical answer and I'm gonna give you like a spiritual answer. Sure. Right?
Listen to
physical answer. My parents was traveling storytellers. My father, being a Gullah Geechee native, he actually wrote a book called Reminiscences of a Sea Island Heritage, right? And from that book, my mother and my father created like a program where they would sing songs and they would tour on their own merit. So this is like before, like you have booking agents and whatnot. They would just go to school, different cafeterias and stuff, and they were touring, right? Around that same time, I had just been born, to be honest. Like I was in the womb while they were touring, telling stories, but I had just been born. And the Nickelodeon, the network, was coming up with the idea for a children's show. And it was a woman named Gloria Naylor. She passed, R.I.P., a very prolific author. She passed my parents' name off to some execs at the industry. And they actually flew down to South Carolina to meet with my parents. One of the, I'm gonna say maybe like the second meeting, again, I had just been born, they took me to the meeting. And wow. Yeah, I was there because I was nursing. I was a hand baby. And I was sick at the time, right? So they took me to the meeting, they were out to lunch, and one of the producers thought I was so cute, she asked to hold me. I was sick. I threw up on her in the middle of the meeting. She thought that shit was so cute that it turned from like a show about my parents to actual family show at that meeting. And I believe like in the next month, they signed a contract and then it became like Gullah Gullah Island, the family show. Wow. After that.
That's a beautiful thing. Well, I mean, we want to continue digging into that. But just out of curiosity, how often do you get to make it home? Because you obviously moving around a lot, right?
I be home more often than people think.
Word.
You know, yeah, like when I'm not in LA working, I escape back to the South.
Word.
How is it like navigating that? Like, are you revered? Are you praised? Are you championed? South Carolina? I see your endorphins going off when I mentioned that. So I'm real interested in the answer to that.
Yes.
How would you describe your experience going back home as an adult, Simeon?
As an adult, Simeon, it's grounding for me because I'm not knucklehead young Simeon, right? So there's a lot of people there who feel like they got to see the progression of who I was to who I am and what I'm doing. And because I'm from a small town, I represent a lot of people, and they're proud, they're happy. You know, there's some places I can go to and don't say my name the wrong way.
Really? Oh, so I got ops if I go out there and be like, Simeon is a... It's up for me?
You better not run into Buddy. I tell you, man.
So this brings me to another question. The show ended when you're 4.
Mm-hmm.
What was your next booking after that? How old were you?
So like professional booking?
Professional entertainment on television booking.
I was 22.
18 years.
18 years. 18 years.
Give me a microwave version of your life from 4 years old to 22.
If you can.
What happened from like your first memory as a teenager? Like what was your life like? How would you describe it? Go ahead.
Everybody knows Black Panther, right?
Yeah.
I can honestly 100% say like I grew up feeling like Killmonger. Right? Like Gullah Gullah Island was this key that your father rightfully left you. Right? You know, Killmonger had that key. You know?
Right.
He had a rightful heir to the throne. He wasn't capping. Like, you hear Gullah Gullah Island, people like, oh, Hollywood, you belong here. But he didn't grow up with the same privileges that these people who got to grow up in Wakanda had.
Right.
He grew up outside of it, where life was a lot harder. He had to grind his way back just so when he got back, he would do it differently.
Yeah.
That's the microwave version of my life. Like, I was able to see the height of success at a very young age and normalize it. And I was also able to see, you know, those horror stories that people say about, like, when the work dries up, it dries up. And then you have to figure out who you are and what you're going to do next. And I think for me, it was humbling because I was a baby and I got to see how people treat you based off what they think you have and where they think you are in life. You know?
Man.
And normalize that.
Right. So what did you do in that 18 years that kept your passion alive? Because if you had to grind as hard as you say you had to grind, that means you were facing some resistance. And they talk about grinding gears. The gears are the resistance of your grind. So how did you stay inspired in that time?
Or did it die out and come back?
Right.
So here's what I said about the spiritual answer, right? Spiritually, I was created to do this. Like, I was born to do this. Like, literally my first entrance to the world, I came, we had a meeting, and then I was on television, right? And just so happens that my parents were doing it. Like, through osmosis. When I was in the womb, they were telling stories, right? So from a spiritual level, it was like I walked a lot of different paths in my life, but this is the path that's destined for you to walk. So as long as you breathe in air, the higher power, God, ancestors, whatever you want to call it, we're still making sure you get or you complete what it is you're here to complete and do what you're here to do. So I would honestly say a lot of times it was above me, man. It wasn't like I consciously chased this. A lot of it was like loved ones on the other side being like, we're not letting you go out until you fulfill what it is we brought you here for.
Amen. Okay. Hey, yeah, for sure it is.
The question I have, and you know, part of the hugest reason paths exist is because, you know, I come from the trenches as well, right? So I see the youth growing up, and they want to be like their local hustler, their local scammer, their local trapper, etc., etc., etc. So in those 18 years, did you face any temptation to delve into those worlds, right? Because past is simply, it's many things, but one of the things that past represents is the option for another way, right? To teach those watching and listening that there are other options far beyond the pitfalls of your local environment. And we want to bring that to their forefront, directly in front of them. So did you face any of those temptations or those environmental magnets?
Absolutely, without question. I think one of my biggest struggles was because of Gullah Gullah Island and where I grew up, there was nobody like me. You know, like I didn't get a chance to grow up next to LeBron's kids who had access to different things. And so because I was the only one there at a young age, I adapted to what was around me.
Right.
You know, so what a lot of people don't know, when the show ended, my father, he couldn't get work in Beaufort, South Carolina. He was working in the school system for some time, but he hated it. But it was literally like you go in to get a job interview and they'd be like, oh, you're the TV guy. You're too qualified. You're rich. You don't need to be here. So they wouldn't hire him. But what a lot of people don't know is, based off the way the contract was set up in the 90s, we never made no residuals off the show.
Word.
So when the show ended when I was 4, that was the end of Gullah Gullah money. So our house went into foreclosure. We lost our house.
Wow.
I remember my grandfather died within the 2-year span, and then my father ended up having to move to find work. He finally got hired at Brook Green Gardens, where he just retired from. He served 18 years there.
Wow.
So he would commute home on the weekends. So 5 days out the week, it was just me, my mom, and my sister. He moved out when I was 12. 12 years old, that's a very pivotal time in my life, right? When I'm fortunate enough to be like, you know, my father was definitely present in my life, but growing up in a small town, like Beaufort, South Carolina, when you really dabble in the streets like that, 5 days out the week, you know how much can happen in 24 hours?
Right.
24 hours.
That's facts.
So the people I looked up to were the people outside.
Yeah.
The people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
The people who had money, which is one thing I felt like we didn't have because of the situation. The people who had respect for whatever reason they got respect. And I definitely went through that mindset of I had to break the mold of expectation of who the world thought I was because of Gullah Gullah Island and make a name for myself. You know, like, who is Simeon? And that was when I fell into that same trap that most young men fall into, is you got to make your name ring a certain way. You know? So again, like I humbly say this, a lot of me being back here is because I got people on the other side being
looking
like,
at you, taking over, make sure you good.
bro, this ain't, hey, we making sure.
Yeah.
I have people who I was with the night before who are not here anymore.
Yeah.
You know? So absolutely, I had to not only find my way back, but come into myself.
So for the young man watching this that's in the trenches, that has aspirations that he's too scared to tell the person to the left or to the right him that he's in the streets with, what you telling him to navigate his way out of that situation, to chase something that he's too embarrassed to say, but there's this fiery, burning passion in his heart that he knows he's destined for greater?
I'm gonna tell you what somebody told me. It was a wise man. He said, first they'll laugh, then they'll follow. But you gotta let them laugh first. Meaning, the people in your surroundings are not gonna understand at first. You got every reason to keep dimming your light, to keep going with the status quo. But if you really got that fire, you gotta let them laugh. You gotta be able to go against the grain when they don't understand. You got to be able to say, what I want is not reflected in my environment, and I'm going to stick to what I see in my head versus what I see out here. And as long as you can do that, and again, if you've been through those trenches, it's not going to be the first time you faced adversity.
Never.
So what is laughing? You know?
What is laughing? All right, so look, let's double back to your first booking, 22 years old. At this point, you had moved from Beaufort to Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Atlanta. Well,
How did you move to that?
I was 21.
Okay.
I was 21.
Okay.
Man, that was a crazy story. My path to Atlanta wasn't even like being 100%. I had to get out of South Carolina
as soon as possible.
That was it. I was hitting that wall, and it was literally like, whatever I gotta do that's not this, I'll do it. So I moved to Atlanta with he's like my brother. He was a close friend of the family, and at that point in time, like when I was younger, I did theater and I did musical theater until I was about like 15. And I was like, yeah, I'm done with all that.
And that was in Beaufort?
That was in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Okay, like community programs?
Yeah, community theater. So what they had was at the local college, USCB, they would do summer theater camps, and we would put on like Broadway shows. And we had this hard-nosed woman director named Dee Dee Sant from New York who did and trained us like adults. Yeah. I'm talking about, I was a little boy crying on stage, like I'm holding no punches against you, like.
Yeah, she in the trenches for real.
But it instilled the discipline of the craft in us.
Right.
Like I was 10 years old learning how to lead shows, for real. Like I was starring in all the shows, right? But around 15, again, you know, when that young man bug hits you and you be like, okay, I gotta get off this. Yeah, we gotta.
There's other stuff to do.
You know.
Trust me, I know.
It's hard to stay focused on your path, especially at such a young age, at such a pivotal age. 16, 17. Like I said, the guys to the left and right of you, they starting to get money. They outside, they moving around, and you trying to stay the straight and narrow. It's challenging.
You know what's crazy? I started to feel like the straight and narrow was more of a performance.
So the path that you was destined for, you fell out of alignment with.
Yeah,
everything else started to feel more normal and natural.
It felt fake.
Word.
It felt, because also too, like I had seen the height of success, like with Gullah Gullah Island, you know. So like this stuff that these kids are striving to get to, I've already seen it.
Okay.
So I see how like it felt like you're performing to get there.
So
right.
So just because I know you and we can go deeper, right? Did it feel like a performance at a physical level, or do you feel like something had penetrated your spirit, and all of a sudden, what you were called for, no longer had your attention?
I'll say both.
Both.
It'll be both. I think again, spiritually, I was created to do this. If I hadn't come to the world the way I came to the world with the parents I had, I don't know that I would be an actor.
What would you be?
Man, there's so many other options, brother. Yeah. So many paths.
So many paths.
But no, literally, the thing that keeps me is like literally like a spiritual contract. Like you bind to do something. Because a lot of people want a thing, but you don't necessarily want what it comes with. And what this path comes with will break a lot of people. And I think we as entertainers, as artists, as actors, as entrepreneurs, as all the things, we have to be more transparent about what the thing comes with. Because it's easy to say you bout a thing until you get met with what the thing comes with and you realize if you bout it or not.
Yeah, you ain't really bout it.
You know?
Think you bout it.
You think you like that until
it's happening and now you realize.
But truthfully, the thing, I gotta come back to I was created, you know, for this. I can't say nothing different. But it was both. I felt like there was a lot of people who were performing to get into a world where you really knew nothing about. You know, you think you want the world looking at you. Being a young kid who was on TV as a child, it's not always the best thing to walk into a place and everybody think they already know you.
No.
You know? Like I get it, you know, especially when you come from tough situations, you think anything other than this is better. But when you think about safety, when you think about worldly expectations, and now we live in a social media age where everybody feel like they got ends on your life.
Oh my God.
Everybody, you know.
I hate it here.
It's another thing. It really is. It really is.
I love it here.
Yeah. But that's one reason I personally, like on my social media, I don't respond to comments on my page. I might show love on somebody else's page, but I don't respond. Because I've grown up with the idea that like people just want to be able to say that they have access to you. They have access to your energy. They want to see what makes you bite. They want to see what makes you tick. The second you respond, now somebody else feel like, oh, well, he responded to that, now I can respond. And there's some people who fall into that trap. I'm not one of those people who's gonna fall into that trap.
Yeah, nah.
But circling back to your question, what felt real was the confusion and the anger of a path that nobody could explain to me, that nobody around me lived to tell me how to navigate this, but everybody thought that I was gonna sing and dance with a pollywog and sing Gullah Gullah Island to solve my problems, when that wasn't what was real.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So the performing thing felt like a performance, while people wanted that to be their reality.
Let's fast forward and circle back at the same time to you getting to Atlanta.
So fast forward, I moved to Atlanta off a whim, but again, like I stepped away from acting. So my close friend of the family, who's like my brother, he was going around in Atlanta introducing me as an actor.
Word.
Right.
And the last time you acted at this time was 15, 16 in the plays?
Last, I put it down after my senior year of high school, because I was in a drama class, but to be honest, that was like a cakewalk to me, because again, I did like community theater and they trained us on professional levels. So like,
Word.
That was just...
You was getting your feet back in it, but you definitely
not even getting my feet back in it. It's like I was Allen Iverson talking about practice.
Heard you.
Practice. But yeah, that wasn't even on my thing. Like I directed a play for my senior year, and I was done. I was 21. I moved to Atlanta. My brother was going around introducing me as an actor. That was not how I identified. That was not my title. That was not how I was moving. It didn't take long before Simeon and Gullah Gullah Island get paired back together. I met Brittany Horton.
Brittany Horton. She actually did season 2 of Path.
Yeah, for sure. You know what's crazy? Brittany, along someone's path, has always kind of been like the secret angel that did something.
We love you, Brittany Horton.
Like literally. And someone's path, she's always been like the secret angel that just like drops in at the right time.
My first ever audition, she was the reader.
Brittany Horton, wow, this is embarrassing, but it's not. And I'm going to say this with pride because it's the truth. After Burning Sands, I was broke. We got into Sundance, and Brittany Horton paid for my suit to go to Sundance.
See?
Fact.
See?
Brittany Horton has a huge hand in my career in many different aspects. I love Brittany. That's my dog.
Right. Brittany probably did so much behind the scenes we don't even know about.
And so when I met Brittany, she was still working at casting at the time at Tyler Perry Studios. Right.
First ever audition. Number 2.
Yeah. She told me to come through and audition for Tyler Perry's Have and Have Nots, right?
Yeah. What?
How did you meet Brittany?
Names get skewed, but basically the person who brought me to Atlanta was cool with someone she was connected to, and he was like, yo, you need to meet my little sister. Boom. Came to the audition for the Have and Have Nots. That's where I met Raven Drummer. Right.
Hey, Raven.
That was on the show.
That was my first professional television audition ever.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Ever.
Mine too.
Because again, like
the same show.
Word.
Same show too.
I might have seen you in the lobby, gang. I don't know.
Bag of rice, I think.
Yeah.
I remember that. Shit.
Talk about your path.
That's good.
But
Bag of rice.
Yeah, Raven Drummer. First professional audition ever. But again, like I had theater experience.
Yeah.
So I know what to do if you put me in a room.
Yeah.
But when you talk about just like technical stuff with the camera and auditioning, nah. So we did the audition and Raven was like, you look like you want to move. You want to move around? I said, yeah, I want to move around. She's like, okay, so forget your mark, forget all of that, just do what it is you want to do. I said, okay. This was back when I didn't even have names on the roles that I was getting. I was the man. I was the man, right? But the audition,
The irony.
you know.
If I was closer, I'd dap you, bro.
You know, when it's in you, it's in you. can't.
We can't all be chosen. We know it is. It's Saltwata get him every time.
Our egos have clashed quite often. It's my dog though.
But genuinely, the role was, it was like a thug role, and I run into the judge who had locked up my brother, and I see him at the bus stop. But when I read the scene, I was like, I'm from Beaufort, South Carolina. I know how this happens when you see somebody, you know? Mm-hmm. So she let me move around, and I did, and somehow I ended up in the camera. Like, I ended up in the camera. She was like, I love what you just did. I'm gonna actually do it again just so I can watch you. I just want to watch you. Did it again, and she was like, so Gullah Gullah Island. I was like, yeah. She was like, so acting, is this what you want to do? Yeah. She was like, okay. I went home. Probably like 2 weeks later, I got the call like, yeah, you booked Have and Have Nots.
Wow.
And that's how I got back into.
Yes. At
that time?
No. Shout out to Raven Drummer. She hooked me up with my first agent.
Wow.
Jay Purvis.
Nice. And you stayed with Purvis for a little bit. What are some of the things that you got to experience at Purvis?
Because that was your entire reemergence back into the scene. You booked Have and Have Nots. You had an IMDb credit.
But again, like Killmonger, right? I didn't grow up in it, and so I wasn't moving around Atlanta as an actor. But again, when people hear Gullah Gullah Island, the same way when Killmonger walked back into Wakanda, he go like this, and people like, is that like a, oh, you hit?
That was.
Oh, it makes sense. But for me, it was never like I'm trying to reemerge.
Right.
You know, again, I wasn't introducing myself as an actor. Somebody else was.
Yeah.
That's what got me back.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about some of the things that you've done since then. We see a couple things in these notes. With the Bobby Brown story. Oh, indie favorite novella. I've heard of that.
Oh, you heard of that too?
I've heard of that.
That's crazy.
I've heard of that.
I didn't get no read for that.
American Soul, Snowfall. Man, I love it.
American Soul audition come about? It was just a regular email from Jay Purvis that.
I wasn't even with Jay Purvis. Jay Purvis dropped me.
Why?
Jay Purvis did a whole cutoff of their entire roster and their team at one point.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Not only clients go, but half of their
agents,
team
right?
go. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was back in South Carolina at the time, right?
Right.
I couldn't even tell you when
it was, like
2016, and American Soul was two different time periods. 2015.
2015 is when it split.
Was you at Jay Purvis too? They dropped you? No.
Never been dropped.
Yes, sir. No.
Agents left. That's right. It was de facto. They left.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was Bobby Brown brought me back to Atlanta. I had left Atlanta for some time.
I remember that.
Yeah, I left Atlanta for some time.
Came back for novella. Appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. So literally, I did Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown brought me back. I was with a small agency out of South Carolina. And I remember turning in that audition. It was a video audition, and my agent being like, "You're not gonna get this." Basically, like the way you shot it, they're probably not going. I didn't get a email like, "Hey, so they want you an in-person callback in Atlanta."
Your agent had to bite their tongue.
Bite that tongue. Oh. So and literally, I remember.
We love disbelief.
So I had to take that 5-hour drive from South Carolina back to Atlanta. But again, I did theater. Now you want me in the room. I'm in the room now. So we did the audition, and we booked it. Crazy thing with Bobby Brown was, it was a blessing in disguise. Our roles ended up getting minimized from what they originally were. But the producers from Bobby Brown were also the producers on American Soul.
Wow.
Look at God.
Look at God.
So I get in audition for American Soul. I auditioned for Tales and American Soul in 2 days. George Pierre's office, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
GP.
I didn't even think about American Soul audition.
Shout out to George Pierre.
Shout out.
Episode number 2, season 1. Yes, sir.
I didn't even think about. I didn't prepare for that audition for real. Like me and my roommate at the time, we prepped for the Tails audition. American Soul was just kind of like the other thing in there. But I auditioned for George Pierre. He passed me up to producers. Then I had a callback. Yet again, I'm in the room. Mm-hmm. So now I'm in front of the producers, and what they did was they asked me. They was like, you have two different sides. One's a monologue. Do you get it? And I was like, no, I only got one side. I ain't get no monologue. It's like, you didn't get it. So, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to go outside and learn and come back? Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I did theater. Like, they trained us like an adult. Okay. So they let me read it, right? So I went back in and I did the monologue and I booked it. And and that one was slower. That one took about a month for us to hear back. And it's like, they want you for that. And that is actually what solidified me being back in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. But in between that time, we definitely did novella.
Yes, we did.
Did novella.
Yeah, you did a great job, brother. People still talk about that.
Thank you, sir. That was your directorial genius, sir.
Nah, I appreciate that, gang. It's an amazing project. No, thank you. It's all because of Simeon and the other great folks at Damn Right Original. Shout out to everybody over there.
Damn right.
Most definitely. Okay, so you had the experiences, right? So at any point, did you feel like it was time to move back west? Or how did you handle dealings in Los Angeles? Because obviously, those started to come too. You started to get new opportunities in Los Angeles that we will speak about very shortly, I'm sure.
I was one of those people, bro, in Atlanta. I was like, I call it like the great gold rush to Los Angeles. Everybody's like, I need to go to LA. I need to move. I was like, I'm not moving to LA till I book something.
You and me both.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not coming out there chasing a dream, bro. I'm not doing it. And I put something in my mind. I was like, I at least want to have written my own original piece before I make that move, right? And so it was years before I ever thought about moving to LA. And that's when actually you came through and helped me film my first original piece, that play, right? I wrote it. LA came about during the pandemic. I was dead broke. During the pandemic. I had to move back to South Carolina, right? Started the pandemic. I went through a depression, bro. I went through a depression because this is the one time I was the one lonely person in the world who wasn't getting back pay for their job. Like when everybody's getting free money in the world, I wasn't getting nothing. And so all the hustle mentality distractions that you can use to not have to sit with yourself, now I got to sit with myself in South Carolina at my parents' house, feeling like a failure. Like I was going through it. I wasn't making no money, wasn't no work coming in. I didn't know what was what. I remember sitting down and I was just like, I've done Atlanta, right? I need to see what the big dogs are doing in LA. Like I got to see what like the top of the top are doing, you know. But I've never been to LA as an adult. So I had no plugs out here. It wasn't like I had all these friends like, yo, let me come, da-da-da. It wasn't nothing like that. So it was a lot of prayer, a lot of healing, a lot of hurt. And by the end of 2021, an audition came through. I had a manager at the time, my first manager ever. The audition came through and it was all American. It was crazy enough. Before the pandemic happened, I was in Atlanta watching All American. I was like, man, they need a real nigga on this show. I like the show, word. But I was just thinking like, man, I remember watching Spencer James' character and I remember watching Bel Air. I mean, not Bel Air, but I'm on the show and can't remember where these people from. That's so sad. Not South Crenshaw, but where all the rich people Snowfall. From. No.
Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
I just remember watching it and I remember thinking like, yo, if we had access to all the stuff that they had access to in high school, like what we would have did with that opportunity, bro. If we had just access to it.
Just a little bit.
Just like I came from people who are hungry, bro. just access. So I remember watching the show like, man, they need a real. So 2021 audition came through, and luckily when I got the audition, I was like, oh, I know this character.
Yeah.
I understand this character. God, ancestors, this y'all throwing me a bone again. So during that time, again, pandemic, nobody was in any rooms anywhere. So I actually had a Zoom audition, which was my closest thing to getting in the room. I didn't have to send the tape. Now I'm face-to-face via computer with the casting director. I did that audition, booked it. It was a whole crash course, and from booking it to getting out here. But luckily, the people know Christian became a big part of my path.
Yeah.
I booked that audition, and again, I had to figure out how I'm gonna finagle this, how I'm gonna move, because they booked me as a local hire. So it was up to me to put myself up. They wasn't flying me out. They wasn't paying for that. This is everything out of pocket. And again, I was dead broke. So I'm like, oh, I got to come out here to LA and hustle up some money and get back on my feet. I hit a couple people. Doors closed in my face. People flaked on me. People was like, oh yeah, we could do this. And nothing happened, but I got to get out here and make some money. I hit Christian. Christian was the only person who was like, yo, come here, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna tell you the exact words. The exact words. He was like, yo, I got a full crib. If you even got to sleep in the bathtub, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. I need to intervene for a second, bro, because I watched you do this earlier during another interview. You need your flowers. Christian has been a major part of everybody's path so far in all the interviews we've done. And what I love is that every single time somebody comes back to a story, it's because they've gotten to a place in their path where they're at a level of frustration. They feel like they can't go forward. And Christian just opened the door for them. Just open the door for them. And I know that's not what we're here for, but like just because we've known each other, 2016, 2015, 2016, somewhere around. Like we've been 7-8 years. We've all known each other consistently.
I'm gonna say on some real stuff, Christian really saw me get it from the ground to where I am now.
I think I met y'all on the same day too.
No, literally, bro. Yeah. Like, and we've had multiple conversations, multiple conversations
as brothers do.
Now I'm out here. He's like, yo, so what's your plan?
Yeah,
bro, I ain't got no plan.
Yeah,
you know, my plan was I had a whole Airbnb situation booked. I was like, okay, word, I'm gonna come out here, I'm gonna book, I'm gonna get paid, then I'm gonna get out your spot, and I'm gonna get my own Airbnb. Pandemic happens, people on set start catching COVID, so now they push my start date back. So it was supposed to be a 2-week stay, now it turned to like a 2-month stay. It's 4 grown men in his spot. I
got a big heart, man.
Yeah.
That'll be a whole nother interview. But But really, like, he was the one person who was like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm gonna need some of that, bro. That's
have me crying on my show. What y'all not gonna do?
Ain't nothing wrong with it, man. Look, man, super proud of you, bro. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. You could definitely. I'm very connected to this conversation outside of what it means for anybody who's watching it. I love where everybody is from where we all shook hands. Hard stop. Just appreciate that. Go ahead, bro.
Thug tears. Salute to you, man. I'm so proud of you, dog.
Yeah.
You came out here, you did your thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You did your thing from Cheap About a Dozen to Snowfall.
Talk about it. Talk to him.
American Soul, All American, producing. Saw that Deadline article. Super duper proud of you. For the listening ear of the young men and women that look up to you from afar that don't have access to you. In this position, if I'm in a position to have access to you, to ask you, what are you telling them to get where you are? All they have is a spark. Oh man, I love what Simeon does. I want to be an actor. They're 16, 17, growing up in Anywhere USA, very similar to Beaufort, South Carolina, right? Walk me through a headshot, resume, demo reel, get an agent, get some web series. Like, how do you get them on TV? What would you say to them? Like, to them to know it's possible. Like not just an inspirational quote. Like give
No,
them some
real.
game.
My conversation with people actually be quite different. You know, my biggest thing is like, don't try to be like me, because I'm not trying to be like nobody else. And so honestly, what is it that you want? Because if it's to be like me, bro, my path might break you. Like, what is it that you want? So then I can help you chart that. Because if it's fame or it's to be a working actor, that's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
If you want to be on TV and you want to be a celebrity, that's not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
If you want to be a superstar or you just want to have hood fame by saying you in a movie or followers, that's not the same thing.
Not the same
so
thing.
find out what it is that you want and why you want it.
In the arena of practical steps.
Practical steps to
attain becoming a working actor. Let's just pick that.
train.
Where?
I would tell anybody to do theater first.
You told me that.
Theater first. And this is something said in the theater community, you know. A theater actor can do TV and film. A TV and film actor can't necessarily do theater. It's easy to transition from one, but not to the other.
Yeah.
Right? Theater is where you learn the skill of the craft. The skill of the craft, right? You have no magic buttons. You have no cut. You have no edits. You have no politics that make you look like a star just because you looked over here like this. It's you have the craft of it. You have the energy, and you're on. If you got it, you got it. If you don't, you don't. And you learn that there, and you have to pay your dues. I'm big on that. Pay your dues. Because I'm still paying it. But just to get here, I've paid some dues. Train in theater. You'll learn if this is the craft for you or not. Because again, if you want to be famous, that's one thing.
Can I just email a theater company and be like, yo, I want to do theater?
You know, I don't necessarily work in the office to know. But I would say, honestly, I would say research any local theaters in your area. Go up there. Even back when I was doing like the community theater in Beaufort, it happened to be biking distance from my house. I ride my bike up there to go audition. I will go up there every day to see if they posted who got casted. Like, I was like that. Go see for yourself. I'm a big advocate about that. I'm gonna go see for myself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna ask what you had to tell me, and then I'm gonna go see. Go see for yourself, you know, because I think a lot of times there are gatekeepers in any industry.
Politics.
It's easy for somebody to tell you something that might be different if you went and found out for yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did the Snowfall audition come about? You on All American already?
How
did it land?
I was with my agent who I have now. I was with Innovative, who I'm still with Innovative. I had a different manager at the time. Snowfall came through, and at that point, like, I was just auditioning. There was a lot of auditions. I turned it in.
Hot from All American at this point, right? So everybody's sending you. They want to see you. So your work begat more work.
Ultimately, looking back at it, yes, it didn't feel like that in the moment.
Okay.
You know, it didn't feel like that in the moment at all. But I got the audition. I turned it in. And this was the one rare situation where casting got back with notes. Because as you know, as actors, if they don't want you, you just...
You're not going to hear back.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You did. They came back with notes. And they was like, okay, do it like this. Came back, did it like that. And I waited. I was on my manager almost every other day, like, yo, did we hear back? Did we hear back? Okay, right, what did we hear back? Like, what's going on? Did we hear back? Finally, we heard back. And so, yeah, what was crazy, because from the audition, it seemed like a more prolonged storyline than what it was. Like, from the audition, I'm like, oh, y'all trying to series reg me for Snowfall. By the time we booked it and we was at that table read, it's like, oh. All right. Okay. You know? But yeah, I auditioned.
Yeah.
I auditioned every role I've gotten except for one. I've auditioned for, except for two, including novella.
So, out of all the characters you've played, and I know you said what you said about Baby Simeon. Which of these characters do you most resonate with?
Most
resonate with. Aside of Baby Sim.
Well, Baby Sim was just like, which character would you love?
Yeah, no, I'm joking, obviously.
Because all my other characters died at some point. I would honestly say Jabari.
Yeah.
You know, Jabari. And I had a meeting with the showrunner. I was like, I thank you for writing that role, because that's Simeon's high school self.
Yeah.
For what a lot of people don't know. Even from the first moment of where they introduced my character, and I ran down to Spencer in the football field. Mm-hmm. You know, I read that moment, and when you know how much work you put in, and you know you've been overlooked, and you know the grind, and you finally get the chance to be like, oh, you let me in the room?
Don't do that.
You know?
You like being in the room.
Yes.
You know? Oh, you let
Give me the ball.
Yeah, to that point where like Jabari sees Spencer, and it was like, you know, I remember that line, like, if I was on that field, you wouldn't catch a ball on me.
Yeah.
I'll lock your ass up. Like, well, you know where I come from?
Yeah.
It was like that. And I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, you can relate. I love it, man. Yo,
I'm not gonna ask you the most annoying question in the world that actors get asked all the time of what's next. Hate that question. So I want to ask you, what do you want to do next?
Feel free to look into your camera and manifest it if you like.
For everybody, I'm big on evolution, right? I've asked myself this question a lot. Evolution, I believe like life is meant to evolve, and if you're not evolving, you're dying. And so, being that I started off as a child actor, I don't know that as an adult I'm supposed to still be auditioning. The next phase of evolution, in my opinion, is to be in charge of creating the stories that then get told. Mm-hmm. And so I'm more into world building. I don't know anybody whose career I'm trying to emulate, because I'm trying to do my own thing. But what's next for me? I'm big on Afrofuturism. I'm big on helping Black people re-envision themselves, seeing beyond the limitations of just the reality in front of them, but also the reality painted in the media.
Yeah.
And writing and creating those stories and getting those picked up. That's what I'm big on.
I think it's and I think with the access and the information we have, a lot of actors are like, they've climbed the top of their mountain, and now they see all the other mountains, and they're like, I want to do that, and that, and that, and that, and nobody's gonna stop me, because there's this fuel in you, and there's this realization that comes when you figure one thing out. You realize you can do anything, and all you have to do is learn how to do it.
Not only learn how to do it, get past those voices that are intentionally telling you you can't.
Man, I'm trying to tell you.
And I highlight intentionally telling you can't. Because if everybody knew they can do it, there would be a lot of people who had to be held accountable for that.
Be a whole lot of people have to try harder. But that's a whole different episode.
I use the analogy of who's smarter, a doctor or a mechanic. Well, it depends on the situation, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So there's something that clicks in your brain. Like I heard Will Smith say when he went skydiving, something clicked in his brain, like he unlocked a new level. And there's been many moments in my life where I accomplish something and I unlock a new level and be like, I can do anything. I figured that out, and that was hard. So nothing can be as hard as this. Right? So now I know I can figure out anything. So salute to you for stating exactly what you want to accomplish.
Shay. Thank you.
What do you got? Give me something. Cause I'll go all day. Do you have any mentors?
No,
mentors. You know, I do. I don't necessarily know that they would be in the industry though.
That's fine.
Yeah. Why not though?
I cannot say that they are not, but I know I went through a time where I was literally like praying, like, God, send me a mentor. Like I give game to so many people and feel like there's nobody giving me game, and I need it. You know, I'm not trying to sit here and act like I know everything. I need it. And the industry is funny. The industry is people who can say one thing and not follow through on the thing. So I honestly, like, mentors who I've had have been like more so spiritual mentors who I've like met along the way, and you realize a spiritual lesson translate over into the industry. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as like recently, I'm gonna say there's one big homie who's been genuine about following up and making sure I'm navigating this thing correctly.
In the industry or out of it?
In the industry.
Okay.
In the industry. I ain't gonna speak publicly on that.
No. Keep that to the chest. It's just, it's good to hear that when people are in this place of growth and transcendence, that they still don't lean on their own understanding. So we don't even need to know who it is. It's just good to know that you understand that.
Bro, I believe that's true humility, man. To be honest, like the ability to be like, yo, it's not me.
It's not.
And I think a lot of it can get confused as like ego in this, but when you gotta put your own feet to the ground and overcome those battles that nobody knows just to be able to show up and do it, it's almost like you don't know what it took to get here. Please don't confuse my presence with ego, but you don't know what it takes just to wake up and tell myself I still can.
Mm-hmm.
Every day when it's silent.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's easy when you got the world nurturing you and there's a space curated for you. Like I used to say, like, I wish I had the privilege of growing up in the industry where you see the normalization of all these great things and you can do all these great things and people are going to coach you and hold your hand through it. And it's hard when don't nobody believe in you and everybody doing something else and it's just you fighting against it for yourself. And ain't no applause until people see that they can't stop you.
Last thing. Yeah, you an actor listened to you, went and did theater, studied theater for 2-3 years. They became a beast, right? Now they want to get on film and TV. Help them get an agent. Guide them through that process. How?
First and foremost, I must preface this by saying I do not have all the answers.
That's fair. None of us do. We only
I do
know
not.
our path, and that's why paths are so important, because I can have 100 actors up here, and every single one of them will tell you something different on how to accomplish a goal that you have. And
So like again, for myself, right? And I can always say this, like, it's the key that my dad left for me, you know. Gullah Gullah Island holds weight, period. So like there's something I can always say and people be like, Gullah Gullah Island, he's booking, he's marketable, he'll make money, sign him. What I would educate any theater actor on is that this is a business.
Yeah.
Right? So I urge you to learn the craft so that when you get the shot, you knock it out the park and there's no debating on why you got this job. Right? But understand, everybody is not looking for skill, they're looking for what makes money. So when you approach an agent, it's not necessarily about all the years you trained or how good you are or the plays you starred in. They want to know, most of them, how you gonna make me money. And so with that, I think there's different showcases, there's different open houses that agents show up at, there's different seminars, you can make connections.
You know any that you feel comfortable stating? If you don't, it's okay. I just want to educate the masses.
I do not. Okay. To be honest.
That's fair. But there are everything that you're saying. They're 100% of workshop showcases.
Absolutely.
And it's 100% easy to find with a Google search.
And avoid scams, please. The easiest way to avoid scams is references from people that have done it and have made it.
You do not have to pay to be with an agent. If any agent says, pay me to represent you, it's a scam. Run away.
And
Fast.
the last cherry on top before we wrap this up is beyond Gullah Gullah Island. And you said it, but I'm going to just reiterate it. Bro, you're dope. Gullah Gullah Island, holding weight or not, like, you're extremely talented and skilled in the craft, so you're gonna go far whether you mention Gullah Gullah or not. Because most people, if you ask me, will see your performance and be like, wow, he's dope, and then go look at your IMDb and be like, oh shit, he was in Gullah Gullah Island, by the way. It's not a door opener, it's a cherry on top, in my humble opinion.
For sure. Can I?
That's true.
On some real shit? I've never like led with the fact that I was on Gullah Gullah Island, ever. Even
No,
as a child.
facts.
But like, it's one of those things where like, because of the impact that it had, somebody else is gonna say it before I ever have to say it. So it actually took me some time to grow into being comfortable and being like, yes, I did X, Y, Z. So I appreciate that affirmation for sure.
I already know. Yo, thank you for pulling up, bro. I appreciate you.
Most definitely, bro. I had to clap for my dog, man.
Nice hoodie you got on there.
Oh yeah, pass.
Pray for keeps, y'all.
Pray for keeps, man. Appreciate y'all. Peace and love. Tune in next time. Easy.
Absolutely.
Peace.